For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sanel Dlamini. DA spokesperson of Basic Services, Makashule Gana, discusses the DA Manifesto. Welcome, Mr. Gana.
Thanks very much for the invite.
Yes. Your political party recently launched its manifesto for the upcoming elections. What are the main messages in your manifesto?
Thanks very much, Sane. The main messages that we as a DA are putting to South Africans, it's job creation, because you have many South Africans that are unemployed, over 10 million South Africans that are unemployed. So when you look at our manifesto, you see a big focus on jobs and on economy. And like our leader Musi said, that we want to get to a stage where we have a job in every home. So that's one of the big things that we are focusing on, because without a job, people will not be able to have the kind of life, to live a dignified life. Secondly, we are focusing on accelerating the delivery of basic services. And this we use the experience that we have gained in government, because the DA now is no longer just an opposition party. It's a party of government. We govern in the Western Cape, we govern in Johannesburg, we govern in Tshwane, we govern in other municipalities in South Africa. Then there's also a big focus in terms of fighting corruption, because we are in this mess that we are in as a result of people, politicians, bureaucrats who are stealing the money that they should be developing this country. We also recognize that the crime in this country, it's getting out of control. Our people cannot walk the streets safely. They cannot sleep peacefully. So we want to have an honest police service, a well-trained police service that's geared to protecting the people of South Africa. And we also want to secure the borders of South Africa, to ensure that when people do come to South Africa, they are able to enter through the gates that are provided and not be crawling under the fences or jumping over the fences, the border fences that are there. So those are some of the key aspects of our election manifesto.
At a national level, what percentage of the vote are you hoping to achieve in May elections? And when you look at Gauteng, what are you hoping to achieve at Gauteng? I know you have put your efforts more on winning Gauteng.
Our electoral objectives for these elections is to retain the Western Cape, to win or to be part of government in Gauteng, to be part of a government in the Northern Cape, and to grow our share of the national vote. We in 2014 we received just over 22%, and we are looking to increase that number significantly in order for us to be in a position that by 2024 we should be able to be a government in South Africa. So our big objectives for this year, there are 4 objectives, is to win the Western Cape, is to become a government in Gauteng, a government in the Northern Cape, and the 4th one is to grow in every other province so that we grow our share of the national vote.
And there's a perception that your party is mainly a white party, but the data shows that in the past elections, you managed to secure the same number of black voters as the EFF. What are you seeking? What are you planning to do in order to get more black voters?
Sane, when you talk of perceptions, and usually when people ask me about perceptions, it's to say, just look at me. I'm not white in a way. I'm as black as they come. I'm a black man, so I'm double black in a way. And I've been a part of the DA for the last 17 years. And from the day that one becomes a member, one says, I want to build a DA that will be home to all South Africans. That's why when we talk of building a One South Africa for all, it's where we are going to not only be a party for all South Africa, but also in what we do. South Africans must look at the DA and they must see a party that represents them, and that's what we've been doing. So our focus, I mean, if the party was not attracting voters from across the spectrum in South Africa, wouldn't be a government in Johannesburg, wouldn't be a government in Tshwane, a government in other parts of municipalities. But the thing is, the DA is the single growing organization in this country, is the most diverse organization, and you just have to look at the leadership, you just have to look at the membership. I mean, people came to Rand Stadium over the weekend and they were surprised to see, but when we look at this DA, we see South Africa united. We see South Africans that are coming together. committing themselves to build a South Africa that works for all South Africans. And that's what the DA is most focused on.
When I read in some of the news around, there was a comment from one of the political analysts, if I may quote him. He said he was worried about your manifesto not being able to touch on the lives of the minority. He mentioned the Indians. What can you say to a person who will say that your party was like, it looked like as if you were focusing on attracting black voters?
Our manifesto, it's a manifesto for South Africa. It's a manifesto for all South Africans. It's a manifesto that whether you are in a rural village, you are living in an informal settlement in Johannesburg or in Tshwane or in Germiston, whether you are living in the farm, that's why we talk of rural safety, whether you are living anywhere in Sandton or here in Bedfordview, it's a manifesto that talks to you. It's not a manifesto that is segmented to say, this is a manifesto, this particular line is for a person that is staying in a rural village of Limpopo, for instance. But it's to say, how do we come together? Recognizing the past that we come from as a country, how do we then come together and say, we need to build a one South Africa for all, a South Africa that works for all South Africans, regardless of where they find themselves. Because what we have in South Africa, one of the biggest divisions that we have in this country is that you have those ones that are the insiders who have the jobs, who've got the means to provide for themselves, who have a better quality of life, and the majority who are on the outside. And what we are talking about as a DA is how do we bring or build a South Africa that we are going to make sure that there are no insiders and outsiders, where we are able to work together, where everyone that you see first as a South African, not in terms of the background that they come from. So that particular observation by that analyst, I will assume that analyst probably only looked at the highlights of the manifesto and hasn't gone through all the pages, all the 82 pages that we have presented as our plan of change for South Africa.
Fair enough. And there's been bruising debates in the DA about the issue of black economic empowerment. What is your policy on that matter?
You know, Sani, we need to, as a party, as South Africans, we need to recognize that we come from an unjust past. Our inequality in this country, it's not natural. It was man-made. And what we talk about as a DA is to talk about an economic redress, recognizing where we come from, and recognizing that the denial of opportunities to many South Africans was created by a man. It was not a natural phenomenon. And therefore, we are talking about an economic empowerment that's broad-based, that's going to reach South Africans, not the one that currently we have that benefit the elites. We want to have the majority of the black people who were excluded in the economic center of South Africa to become part of the economy. Because here's the thing, the more you have black people or those who are disadvantaged having economic power, then you are going to see a country that's prospering. Because we cannot continue with the current level of poverty and inequality. That's why for me, you need to start by a point of saying where we are is not a function of nature. Where we are was man-made. Therefore, it's up to us as the men, it's up to us as a generation to commit ourselves to redress the social and economic injustices of our past. And that's something that as a DA we are fully committed on, and we're not going to apologize for wanting to redress the economic injustices of the past.
At the recent SONA, President Ramaphosa announced that Eskom will be unbundled into 3 units. But I noticed that in your manifesto you are presenting a different approach. What is your plan to help South Africans when we look at Eskom? So
one of the things, and finally the ANC has woken up to a DA proposal, because we've been for long campaigning that Eskom cannot continue as it is. It cannot continue generating, transmitting and distributing electricity. Because that should not be what ESCOM should be focusing on. And ours was to say that we need to break ESCOM into two, the generation aspect and the transmission aspect. Leave the distribution to the municipalities, because the municipalities are well equipped to deal with those matters. Therefore, finally, the ANC has woken up to the idea that the problems that we have, the electricity problems that we have, is as a result of the mismanagement of ESCOM, and because it's sitting as this super monopoly, that whatever you need in this country, you have to go through ESCOM. Your independent power producers are not able to get into the market. So, like now, if we are able to break ESCOM into pieces, and then you'll have the independent power producers who are able to get into the grid. People will then get to purchase electricity from the independent power producers, and that's something that it's a welcome development. That finally they've opened their eyes. We've been telling them for too long that you cannot continue with ESCOM in this particular way, and they are coming around. So our policies, as we say, it's not a policy just wishful thinking. It's well researched. We have people who work in to develop these policies to ensure that they are in the best interest of South Africa and its people.
You have been a shadow minister of housing before, and you and I know that from the communities that we come from, the issue of housing remains one of the worst, if I may say so. So your party is presenting vouchers up to the value of 150,000 for people who are earning from 4,000 to 15,000. Tell us about that aspect of keep giving people houses as well as this money to be able to buy their homes.
Yeah, so what we are presenting insofar as the human settlements or housing is to give people choices. You know, in many instances, people say, you know what, if I had that the money, that the amount of money that is being used to build an RDP house, I could build a better house myself. I could go and get a different house from what the RDP model is. And we recognize that the RDP model has slowed down. So if you're going to wait for a physical house, it's not going to work. That's why we're talking of a housing voucher, where people will be given service sites and they can build the kind of houses that they want with the money. So that's key. And also one of the aspects is to say that we also giving opportunities for those ones who are getting into, who are still looking for jobs, the social housing, because that's key. You know, social housing, we need to go high rise, we need to densify, especially in our urban centers, where I mean, if you look, for instance, in Johannesburg, where there's not much available massive pieces of land that you can be able to build rows and rows of RDP houses. Therefore, what you need to start doing is you need to densify. You need to start going up, when people who are coming in from other parts of the country, coming into Joburg to look for jobs, they can be able to have access to low-cost rental social housing. And that's something that we are planning. But it's not only something that we are only talking about it in terms of we want to do it. We are already doing it. I mean, if you look at the work that Mayor Mashaba is doing in Johannesburg, insofar as getting a low-cost rental in the CBD, where people who are looking for jobs can be able to sitting there. When you look at the work that's being done by MEC Madikizela in the Western Cape, insofar as social housing is concerned. So when we talk about these solutions, it's not solutions that is still wishful thinking. It's solutions that in many instances we are already implementing on the ground where we govern. That's why we ask South Africans that look at us not only in terms of our manifesto, but look at us in terms of our performance in government. Like the best run municipality in this province, it's a Mid-Val municipality that's governed by the DA. So where we govern, services are delivered. Where we govern, conditions for employment creations are done. So it's a manifesto that's anchored on our record in government, but also our plans going forward.
We won't be doing justice if we don't ask you about your plans to make sure that schools are safety, as well as that you provide everything that is necessary. Like we know that we have been battling with issues of pit toilets, kids drowning. What is the DA going to do?
So on the issues of the school safety, I mean, it's a big aspect. You know, if we don't get the education environment, because education is not only the book, it's not only the teacher. Education, it needs to be the environment itself, the learning environment, the classrooms that are properly equipped, the sanitation aspects, so the toilets that are there. So one of the things that we are committing ourselves as a government is that where we govern, there will be no school that you'll have these unsafe pit latrines wherein our kids are dying in. I mean, the reason that this is so, you know, is because we have